This time we're going to talk about tests. The students are getting ready for interim testing, end of the semester tests. Parents are gearing up to figure out what those scores mean and how they can best utilize them for the best education. So to help us out, joining us from Amore Learning, once again, Kaplan and Lizzie Pichowicz is joining us as well. Good to see both of you this morning. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
I mean, it's tough sometimes. It's tough enough for the kids to take the test, right? But then the parents see what the test scores are, and a lot of times parents are just like, okay, it's a number on a piece of paper. Like, what does this mean, right? So whoever wants to take it, first of all, how do we break down what this actually means for the parents when you see what that score is?
That's such a great question. We get this question a lot. And the most important thing to understand is that this is just a small snapshot. It's a one-dimensional look at your child.
So in thinking about like a percentile, that's just a comparative norm into understanding how your child performed on that particular assessment. So let's say they scored in the 80th percentile. That means that they scored higher than 80% of the population that took that particular assessment.
So, right. So this is not like you got 80 out of 100. This is like you scored better than 80% of the people who took the test.
Exactly.
So then the question is, what do we do with that data? Do we just compare it against other tests the student has taken, or what's the best way to actually measure if we have achievement here?
So we always say that the best thing to do is to talk to your child's teacher. So, and we want to look at so many things about the child. We want to know, how are their friendships in the classroom? How are they doing in a group project? How are they doing speaking in front of their friends? It's just, it's such a, we want a much more 360 look.
A test score is just a snapshot into how that student performed on that particular assessment. So looking at things like report cards or assignments or other assessments they've completed in the classroom can help you understand if and how much progress they're making.
So we're going to take the whole picture approach,
right?
Yes,
not just on the
absolutely.
test. But we do probably want to keep track of where those scores are, right? Because you want to see if that student, as they take more tests down the road, if they're increasing the higher percentile or lower, right?
Definitely. So you can keep an eye on test scores, but also you might run into a child who just is not a great test taker, like me. You want to think about so much more about how they're doing academically. So it's great to take the test scores into consideration, but it's not the whole picture. We hear from a lot of parents who are not seeing 80th percentile on their kids' test scores, and so they might be seeing a significantly lower number, sometimes even below 10%. And that does not mean that the child is failing out of school. The child might be doing great, and they might have test anxiety. They may not have had a great breakfast the morning of the test. There could be so many reasons why they did not get that 80%.
Do you see that in the classroom? Sometimes you have a student, you know the student is obviously should be performing better, but maybe it's the test itself that creates anxiety or whatever that might be.
Absolutely, especially when the children are younger and we're leaning more into these computer-based assessments. A lot of kids aren't yet competent on using the computer, so that can be a big barrier into showing what they really know on an assessment.
So what is a conversation like then between, and this is just, for parents, if they get that test result and they think it's maybe a little bit lower than where they thought their child should be, so that they don't get frustrated by that, either the parent or the teacher. How does that conversation go between parent, teacher, student?
Well, as a teacher, whenever I see a student hasn't performed the way that I thought that they were going to perform an assessment, I like to have a conversation with the parents and provide some other data points that either show, okay, this is an area that we need to focus on a little bit more, or, oh, I think that this was just an instance where your child may have not had a good breakfast or maybe had trouble using the computer. So just keeping an open dialogue with parents and really showing how we can target those areas of need is really important.
Have you found a way for the student who just has test anxiety for them to overcome that at least a little bit to become a better test taker?
Absolutely, and it can require some work outside of school as well. But things like deep breathing exercises or there's a whole thing which we're having to talk for. We should have a whole segment on that, honestly.
Right, this is not the only thing you're going to be measured by as far as success.
Right.
Exactly.
A lot of positive affirmations.
Yes.
And just reaffirming that everybody's taking the test, everybody's going to try their best, and you're so much more than just one test score.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, I appreciate both of you being here today.
Thank you.
Wish everybody the best, parents and students, when it comes to it. There's the information if you'd like to find out more about Amore Learning. But Chloe, Lizzie, thank you guys for joining us today. It's good to talk to you.
Thanks so much.
All right, Stephen, what's coming up next?